Does God have a certain time for everyone to die? Great question. Let's go to Acts chapter 17. The Apostle Paul addresses that very clearly. Starting in verse 24, he is in Athens. They were, whoa, you want to talk about just crazy, how they worshiped everything except the true living God. They had statues everywhere, a bunch of philosophers there, and Paul shows up and he preaches them about Jesus. And he brings the point home how God is the creator. And he says in verse 24, the God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth. And therefore, guess what? Because he's the creator, he doesn't need to live in created things like temples made by human hands. And oh, by the way, verse 25, he's not served by human hands as if he needed anything, right? Rather, he, God himself, gives everyone what? Life and breath and everything else. God is the creator. He is the author of life. He's the one who gives you life and the breath you breathe. The breath you breathe, I don't know if that's correct. The air you breathe. He allows you to breathe. That's from God. Okay? And he also has a set time from when you took your first breath to the time you take your last breath here on earth. Here in verse 26, from one man, Adam, he, God, made all the nations. Why? That they should inhabit the whole earth. And he, God, marked out their what? Appointed times in history. And not only that, he also appointed out the boundaries of the lands. Watch. God is the one who set a date called your birth date. It was that date that God gave you the ability to breathe. Does that make sense? Now I'm talking after, obviously, you came out of your mother's womb. There's another date. It's called the date when you will no longer be able to breathe here on earth. And guess what? We all have that date. How do we know what that date is? We don't. God does. And not only that, God has set the boundaries of where you live. It's not by accident right now where you live. God has put it there, put you there. A lot of people say, oh, I can't wait to move. Well, wait a second. How have you prayed about it? Maybe it's God has you where he wants you to be. Now, it may not be that he's going to keep you in the same place your whole life, but, I remember when I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 4 seasons, cold weather, couldn't stand it. Went down to Florida for college, 4 years, loved it. Stayed in Florida, right? And I remember telling my parents, I am never, ever moving back to Pittsburgh. Why? Don't you miss your parents? Yeah, you can come down and visit me. I'm staying in South Florida, right? Never did I want to see snow. I could watch it on TV. It was fine for me, right? Never wanted to experience cold weather, right? And there I was in South Florida, right? From, I don't know, when did I start? When I was 18, 19, until I was 42. And you know what God did? Moved me to Croatia, where they have the same weather as Pittsburgh. And it snows. I'll never forget the first time we were here, the first winter we were here. I had to come down and actually scrape ice and snow off the car. I didn't even have a scraper. I didn't even have gloves. I didn't have anything. I grew up in South Florida. I lived in South Florida most of my life, right? Though I was surprised, God wasn't surprised. Why? He has set the place where I'm living. Okay? So God gives you your date of birth. He set that time. God gives you your date of death. You can't choose that. You can't control that. But this period right here, in between, is where you can make your mark in life. You ever see a gravestone that has the date of birth, has the date of death, and there's something in between. It's called the dash. Guess what? You can play a big part in what your dash will say to your loved ones after you leave. Every day, you are basically writing the story of your dash. So my recommendation to everybody is this. Just like you didn't worry about your date of birth, don't worry about your date of death. God already has it planned. How about make a difference when it comes to your dash? Amen on that one? Yeah, good. All right.